It'd be incredibly naive to think a majority of people watching this know what ear training is. It's a unique skill that only musicians have and train. It's esoteric in essence, and its incredible specificity is marvelous and kind of terrifying. But what if I told you that you have this superpower? Let's take an example. This song is probably familiar to everyone, and regardless of how your singing is, you can easily hum along. In fact, if I asked you to draw a quick sketch of its shape, you could probably do it really easily. You could probably do a similar task for a way more complicated melody. This might seem trivial, but step back for a section. You just listen to audio with many different signals and immediately recognized it as music, accurately interpreted which signal was the most important, the melody. Using the auditory information you received, you instantly recognized the melody as a popular nursery rhyme. You had an understanding of how the melody would continue, and using that, you drew, or envisioned, a rough sketch of how the melody looks. Using that, you can accurately replicate those same audio signals by humming it back. That's insane! And you didn't even need any training. After all, music is all around us, so it's no coincidence that something we're exposed to so often is so ingrained in our heads. Homo sapiens have such a fascination with music, and it transcends just entertainment. In fact, some of us have become so fascinated with it that we decide to study it further. And in doing so, personally, I have found an entirely new appreciation for this eternal human fascination. And all because of a little thing called ear training. I said earlier that ear training was a skill that only musicians have. That's nonsense. The term ear training might be foreign, but we all actually have the innate ability. So the idea behind ear training is essentially learning all the possible distances between notes and learning how to recognize them. When we listen to music, what's actually important isn't the notes themselves, but the distances between them. So for example, if I change which note I start on, but I keep all the distances the same, you're going to recognize it as the same. This is what ear training is all about. It's learning all the possible distances between these notes and learning to recognize them. Each one has its own kind of character, its own emotion that it brings about. So for example, if you look at the Star Wars theme, it has big open fourths and fifths. And this is what gives the theme its heroic quality. There's plenty of resources online to train your ear. There's musictheory.net, IntellEar, and even one provided by RCM. However, none of these platforms provide a high-quality practice for one of the hardest exercises, melody playback. In this exercise, basically the student is given a melody and they have to play the melody back completely by ear. With a teacher, it's really easy to practice. The teacher just gets a melody from the book and plays it, and you play it back and they judge your performance. But what if you want to practice on your own? Well, you're out of luck, because most popular ear training websites either don't have it or make you write it out in an unintuitive way. If you choose the RCM route, then you have to buy the 4-star book, and even then the system doesn't actually tell you how you did. That's up to you to figure out. Since these melodies are composed by humans, there's also a limited number of melodies, which means that after just a couple weeks of good practice, you'd probably exhaust all their melodies. So this is obviously a problem. The problem. So my solution is to use powerful AI tools developed by Google Magenta. And I'm currently working on developing IntellEar, an app that takes ear training practice to the next level. Here's how it'll work. The user is going to select their desired difficulty and length of the melody, and using Magenta's Music Vi, I'm going to generate a melody that satisfies the conditions and plays it back to the user. The user is going to record themselves playing the melody back, and the app is going to use Magenta's onsets and frames model and their dual objective loss function to give the user a score. So onsets and frames basically transcribes raw audio into MIDI, and using that MIDI, we can actually give the user a score on how they did. The app then saves the score for future reference. This solves both major problems with current systems. It gives an infinite number of melodies, courtesy of MusicVi, and it gives the student actual scores, not music scores, grade scores. It's still a work in progress, but you can contact me at droneh.to@gmail.com for updates. Thank you so much for watching. If you want a more detailed look, you can read my article, which I'll link in the description. Stay safe!